you don't know that already. Our mission is to present and incubate the work of artists and media makers that reflect the diversity of our city and to make that work accessible both through free and low-cost programs and also through education and community engagement. Tonight's event is part of the Stoop Series, an informal free presentation and conversation series that happens here on our stoop, named the Stoop Series, most Tuesday nights. Tonight is actually the last one for the spring season, but there is plenty more going on at BRIC in the upcoming weeks and months for you guys to come back to. Case in point, at the end of this month, we're launching the inaugural BRIC Open Festival. You guys have read pamphlets on your seats that has a ton of information about it, but a few things that I wanted to highlight are where are we? As part of the festival, we will be holding the first Be Heard Town Hall of 2017. If you've never been to a Be Heard Town Hall, it's an open and informative conversation. This one is specifically pertaining to the current state of media and the ongoing tension between the press and our current administration. If you can't make it on Friday the 28th, you can watch it live on BRIC TV and follow along on Twitter. Another thing we wanted to highlight as part of the BRIC Open Festival is that the following Sunday after that town hall, we have an incredible presentation of the Drum Major Instinct by the Theater of War Productions, who have organized a live performance of Dr. King's final sermon, The Drum Major Instinct, and it will feature a gospel choir made up of the Phil Woodmore Singers, members of the St. Louis Metropolitan Police Choir, all the way from Ferguson, Missouri, the Trinity Community Church Singers, the Center for Creative Arts Singers, and the Voice of Hope Singers. That performance will be followed by a powerful discussion about race, inequality, and social justice, so be sure to come back on Sunday, April 30th at 1 p.m. for the BRIC Open Festival and that historic event. But first, tonight, we are thrilled to have Marlon Peterson and the entire B presidential team in the house and on the stoop to present Decarcerated, What Justice Looks Like. Marlon has been named one of America's 100 most influential leaders in the Black community by Ebony magazine. He's also written for Ebony, as well as Gawker, The Nation, The Crime Report, Black Press USA, Huffington Post, and is the host and creator of the Decarcerated Podcast. He will tell you all about that project and introduce you to the incredible guest panel behind me that he has put together for tonight's discussion. But before that gets started, please join me in welcoming Marlon and the guests to the stoop.
1, 2, 1, 2. How y'all feeling? Now we in Brooklyn, right? So this is where I'm from. We got at least one or two other folks here on the panel from Brooklyn. So when we're here, when we're in our hometown, we want y'all to give us a Brooklyn welcome. So when I ask y'all how y'all feeling, I want y'all to say what up. And I want y'all to say what up so that folks on the other side of the street can hear y'all. So how we feeling today? What up? Yeah, that's how we go. That's how we do it. Yeah, no question. So first of all, thanks for spending your Tuesday evening here with us, with esteemed panelists on the stage along with me. And I want to sort of start this off by giving sort of a story of why we decided to put this particular type of event, Decarcerated, what justice looks like. Why do we decide to put it together? So I want to ask you to, first of all, think about, so this is NBA playoff time, so some of you all might be upset because y'all might be missing 1 or 2 games. Sorry, that's just the way it happens. But when I ask you, what does an elite basketball player look like, how would you describe it? And you could just shout this out. How would you describe, what does an elite basketball player look like? Kobe. She said the names. Who else? LeBron. You shouted out people, right? You didn't say to me necessarily, well, he does this or she does that, right? You automatically said that person, right? So we wanted to have a conversation today to amplify and highlight what justice looked like by looking at the folks exactly on the stage of what justice looks like. Folks who've been directly impacted by America's criminal legal system, of which 2.3 million people exist in there right now. And that's not counting the amount of folks in immigration detention and many other spaces. And definitely, it also doesn't include about maybe upwards of 77 million people on some sort of correctional supervision, whether it be parole, probation, ankle bracelets. I don't know if somebody around here got an ankle bracelet on them right now. But we wanted to speak to that particular point of what justice looks like, because folks who have had this particular experience have the enormous ability to influence the spaces that they come from. right? So we have on this stage, and I'll introduce them now, folks who come from varying expertise. And here's the thing about people, and I'll be moving around a lot, so just get used to that, and just being live streamed, and we have some questions from the live stream, so if y'all watching, that's good. Be ready with questions, because we'll take questions from the live stream. And also, we'll be interacting often with the audience, all right? So we have 2 folks with microphones. So this is going to be a conversation. It's not the typical panel where, we just sit up here for a while. We talk about what we know, and then you ask us questions at the last 10 or 15 minutes, right? There's going to be an interaction throughout the conversation, throughout the evening. So as I was saying, and kind of going back to that LeBron James scenario, or Kobe Bryant, or whoever you can think about, you said their names because you see within them and within their playing that they encapsulate what greatness on a basketball court looks like. You already know about their dribbling skills, their shooting abilities, they play defense, etc. They won championships. You don't have to explain all that automatically, right? You just look at them. The folks on this panel, from Topeka Sam to Teresa Hodge to Andre Mitchell, AT is what we call him, to Cory, and to Khalil, like these folks in their varying spaces and their varying capacities are exactly what justice look like, and particularly because of the amount of people they're able to influence. And they've all had that incarceration experience, and they will tell you about that in a second. And as I go to them, and they'll be able to explain a little bit more who they are, the work that they do, I want to give a big shout out to Teresa, who came from DC for this. Please give her a round of applause. Is that we can literally, and I say this often in many spaces, but we can literally create the communities that we want. And that includes all of these people in this space, but also including our folks here, folks like myself, who is formerly incarcerated as well, who's done 10 years in state prisons here in New York State. And we've been able to go in various spaces and share our expertise and our learned knowledge with other folks. So as you're here in the audience, I want you to be thinking about a couple of things, right? One, I want you all to be thinking about how can you use information you've gathered here today and the people in terms of what justice looks like, how can you use that in your everyday activities, facilities, what you do? Secondly, I want you to question something about yourself. Do we only need folks who have been able to be on a stage in front of us, or these are the only time that we look at folks who have had this experience as folks who are experts of their own experience? Do we have people in our own families, our own communities? Do we have people around us who can be examples of what justice looks like because of their experience? We want you to be questioning these things amongst yourself. And also, as you engage with the panel here this evening, I want you to be honest about your questions. We don't want just questions that are, or comments that are, just superficial. I want you to be honest with it, because we're having an honest conversation here this evening. So we cool? Cool. So now, when I say about we cool or anything like that, there's some. I told you what we do. Y'all ain't. I don't know, man. I don't know if this is like a real Brooklyn audience. So are we cool? Yeah. All right. Okay. So let me introduce folks here. So on my direct right, we have Topeka Sam. We have a mutual friend in common. We won't mention her right now because she gets all her acclaim in other spaces. We'll say that she's a homie, she's good people's. But Topeka Sam, who is also the founder of The Loam, which is the Lady of Hope Ministries. Thanks for joining us, and I give her a round of applause, Topeka. All right. Next to her right is Teresa Y. Hodge, right? I have to put that there because you see her Twitter handle. She makes sure you know. I don't know if there's another Teresa Hodge someplace that she don't want to be affiliated with, but she makes sure that she's Teresa Y. Hodge. And also, be interacting with social media while you're here. You can be tweeting, whatever it is that you do. So thank you, Teresa Y. Hodge, who is the founder of Mission Launch. She's also a Soros Justice Fellow, among other things. She'll talk about that, too. Next to her is a Brooklyn original, AT, Andre Mitchell. He's the president and executive director of Man Up, Inc. There's a couple of his team here with the green jackets on. They are an organization that works to mediate and prevent gun violence in our communities, particularly in East New York, and Brownsville, which is one of the more, one of the communities that we've always had has a dubious and infamous reputation historically. And so A.T. Mitchell is the person who's created that organization, and I like the story that he gives of why he created it, and I hope you share that with us this evening. All right? Cory. Cory came. You see, this is why I like this, right? Because if you saw Cory walking down the street right now, you'd be like, I don't want to talk to Cory, right? Some people will do that. Some people will do that, right? And so I'll give a little bit of his bio, and he'll give more about it. But Cory and I go back like car seats. That shirt that he's wearing, Holla, you see a homeboy here from Holla as well, one of the leaders from Holla as well, is an organization that works with young folks who may have had justice experience, but works along from a social perspective, letting them understand and be leaders in their communities at their ages, right? Not waiting until they're like 25, 35, 45, but like where they're at right now because they have experiences, right? Cory's also featured in Ava DuVernay's documentary, The 13th. So if you see him, he had a haircut back then. His beard was all shaven up. He had a, you know what I mean? Well, it's the same brother. He's also currently a PhD candidate at CUNY Grad Center. Khalil's like, so I know Khalil for a long time, right? We met each other inside. I'm not going to embarrass him too much.
Don't, please don't.
What's that?
Don't embarrass me.
Khalil Cumberbatch, she's currently the manager of trainings at Just Leadership USA. If you're not familiar with Just Leadership USA, they played a major role in the whole push to close Rikers Island. Khalil was instrumental in that. But Khalil's also somebody who has entrepreneurial experience, particularly from a social media perspective, and that's one of the things he doesn't talk about as much. And he's also a daddy of two beautiful little girls that I adore amazingly. So thanks for joining us, Khalil. Give Khalil a round of applause. So just start this off. You can go, anyone can jump in. I'm not going to pick who necessarily, but I want you to give the audience here a little bit of a perspective of like how you got to where you're at right now, right? There's a journey of incarceration and decarceration that we don't often think about or hear about. We don't often hear about or think about. So I would like for folks who can jump in at any point in time to speak about your experience in terms of your incarceration experience, but also your journey up there. And be clear, audience, if you have any questions, just raise your hands at any point in time. And any of the folks on the left right there, got Kerry right there. We got Kyle, Kelly and Kyle, they got this thing going. They'll be there to take your questions, all right?
So how did I get here on this journey? I guess I would like to say that prior to incarceration that I was a social justice or a criminal justice advocate, but that's not the case. I was a social justice advocate, but criminal justice was not on my radar until I went to prison. In 2007, I began serving what was an 87-month federal prison sentence, and my prison sentence came as a result of I was an entrepreneur. I founded an organization, and when the company became under investigation, I went to trial to defend myself and the company. We lost, and I went to prison and began serving an 87-month federal prison sentence. I won part of an appeal and was able to get it down to 70 months. But my experience is that I was a professional person prior to incarceration. I went to prison 2 days before I turned 45. And so I took a lot of experiences into prison. I was a business developer, and what I knew was I had to reinvent myself. I knew enough about hiring and criminal justice to know I would have to repurpose myself. So while I was in prison, as an entrepreneur with a captive audience of 1,100 women, I began developing the work that I'm currently doing. And I began just creating the solutions that I knew I personally would need, but then also I began listening to the women who I was incarcerated with, and I really paid special attention to the women who came back, because what I knew was prison life was no way of living, and if those women came back, there was a real disconnect somewhere, because I met no one in the entire time I was in prison saying, I can't wait to leave just so I can come back again. So I began listening to those stories, and what I really heard was people just had a hard time reconnecting back to society. They had a hard time connecting back to their family members. They had a hard time finding employment, and life had just changed so much for them. And in the end, what I began thinking about then, and now fast forward 5 years on the other side of the gate, I realized that we have just normalized sending people to prison. And in this moment, we have to rehumanize those individuals that we send to prison. And so for me, I show my face, I tell my story because it empowers me and because I refuse to hide and because someone has to do it. And when I went to prison, I was, quite frankly, pissed off that someone felt like they had the right to take my life from me. And I said I took my body to prison, but I would never give them my mind.
That's right. That's right. That's right. Who's up?
Well, before I went to prison, I guess much like Teresa,